Coming up this week on Talk with Audrey.
It's been 2 years since a devastating earthquake hit Haiti, killing at least 230,000 people and leaving more than 1.3 million people homeless. And as we all know, there's still much to be done. And this week I'm focusing on the efforts, challenges, and successes of grassroots organizations, the Haitian American community, relief agencies, and others for a picture of Haiti at this 2-year anniversary.
Joining me on the show this week, Manhattan Deputy Borough President Rose Pierre-Louis, who was appointed by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to serve on the U.S. member delegation representing the U.S. at the UN Haiti Donor Pre-Conference, Jana Sweeney, the Director of International Communications for the American Red Cross, and President and CEO of the U.S. Fund for UNICEF, Caryl M. It's all coming up next on Talk with Audrey. Insightful, intelligent information to help you improve the quality of your life or someone else's. We'll be right back. You can now follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Visit theadamsreport.com. After the break, Haiti's children. The president and CEO of the U.S. Fund for UNICEF, Caryl M. joins me to talk about UNICEF's efforts and successes. We'll be right back.
Hi there, I'm Audrey Adams. You're listening to Talk with Audrey. Welcome back. This week I'm focusing on the efforts, challenges, and successes of grassroots organizations, the Haitian American community, relief agencies, and others for a picture of Haiti at this 2-year anniversary of the devastating earthquake. Joining me with an update on the efforts of the U.S. Fund for UNICEF is Caryl M. the President and CEO. Welcome to Talk with Audrey.
Thanks, Audrey. Great to be here.
And I thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this conversation. Everyone knows that UNICEF has been in the lives of children for many, many years and has made great strides. And you've made great strides in Haiti. What would you say?
What would I say? You know, it's interesting. We were in Haiti long before the earthquake. You know, and before the earthquake, 75% of Haitians earned less than $2 a day. 70% didn't have any kind of job, and more than 50% of the children had absolutely no access to education. So that's what we start with. Mm-hmm. And then you have, you know, one of the worst disasters we've seen, and you have a very isolated community. You know, even here in this country, when Katrina struck, if you had to, you could have walked to the edge of the disaster. And if you really had to, mm-hmm. and found a grocery store. Mm-hmm. Here you are in Haiti, that's not even a plausible possibility. So, you know, you start so far behind the 8 ball. And I went to Haiti shortly after the earthquake, expecting absolute, not only physical devastation, which clearly there was, but I expected to find a people who had no sense of hope. And yet at the same time, I found the exact opposite when I got there.
Did you? In all of that devastation?
It was remarkable. You know, the second or third day I was there, I had the privilege to go visit a group of kids who lived in an orphanage before the earthquake. Some of them had parents, but the parents were not able to support them. So they were living, you know, in an institutional environment that had a school.
Yes.
And the kids had come out of school about 40 minutes before the earthquake, so no one was left in the school building. And they were all playing in the courtyard between the school building and where they slept. And the school collapsed in the earthquake. And had anybody been in there, they could never have survived it.
What a blessing, right?
Oh, unbelievable. Oh. I sat with these little girls and I asked them, you know, what was it like? What were you thinking? And you know, I have a 10-year-old son, and these girls were 10. So, you know, you can't help but think there, but for the grace of God go I, you know?
Yes.
And one little girl's description, I think, really tells the story of where the Haitian people in general were at that point. This is roughly 3 weeks after the quake. And I said to her, so what were you thinking when the quake hit? You know, what was it like? And she said to me, you know how little kids talk with a finger? She had a finger in the air, and she said to me, at first, and this is a direct quote, it's beautiful, she said, at first, I thought that God had finally taught me to fly because my feet were no longer on the ground. And she said, but then I realized the ground, my feet were where they were supposed to be, but the ground was not where it was supposed to be. And she's telling me this story, and I'm trying to, you know, put my own child in her face, and I said, what did you do? And she said, well, Sister said we should pray, the nun. And she said, so we locked arms, and it was really loud, and it felt like it was going on forever, but we kneeled, and we prayed, and we prayed, and we prayed. And as she's telling us, the tears are streaming down my face, just watching her. And then she looked at me, in the little girl eyes, and she just said, and you know what, Caryl? God heard me. I'm alive. And that was the focus of those who survived, not God took everything. It was, I survived. I'm one of the lucky ones. And now we're going to rebuild this island, and we're going to make it what it really can be.
Wow. Just hearing that story, Caryl, I'm sitting here with tears streaming down my face that this young 10-year-old would be able to articulate such horrifying moments.
Yeah, and just in words that we all could understand, what it must feel like to be 10 and watch your world literally come down around you. I heard devastating stories. Another little girl who had been with her mom and then been sent to the market for spices, and literally 30 seconds after she walked out of the house, the quake hit, and the house collapsed and killed the rest of her family. Mm. Just things that made you wonder, how do you go on with your life? And yet the tenacity of human spirit is phenomenal. And the faith and belief of the Haitian people in the rest of the world, that we're not going to forget them. Stronger than you can imagine.
What about and UNICEF works with children to better the lives of children around the world. Mm-hmm. So I know that whenever these disasters occur, that it has to have an incredible psychological impact if a child were to lose his or her entire family.
Mm-hmm. And many did.
Yes, and so they came from an environment where they were loved by parents and extended family members, and maybe now they don't have that anymore. How do these children find their way? How does UNICEF find these children?
Well, in a place like this, after a disaster especially, the children are really vulnerable to being trafficked.
Yes.
So one of the things we do immediately in the wake of a disaster is we set up what we call child-friendly spaces. And sometimes there are even spaces that are literally roped off with a rope just to designate them. And it's a place where UNICEF staff will be and where we will stay with those children until they can either be reunited with a family member or some kind of alternative put in place. But we try to get some normalcy right back into their life. Arts and crafts. We have a program called Art in a Bag that actually a donor in Boston made possible for Haitian children in huge amounts. Recreation in a bag. We get them playing ball. We get them back in school as quickly as we can because they need some return to normalcy in their lives. Those 3 weeks after the quake, I repeatedly heard from kids, when you go back, tell American children they are so lucky to be in school.
Yes.
And then the other thing is that we try, let me just stay with the child-friendly spaces. About 120,000 children were benefiting from the structured activities that UNICEF provided, through a network of about 520 child-friendly spaces. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty
amazing.
Remarkable.
Yeah, it really is.
And there were about 9,000 separated children that have already been registered, because the thing many Americans don't realize is that there isn't a birth registry in most third world nations. They don't get a birth certificate. So you don't even know how many children you're looking for when you go in. So one of the things that UNICEF has worked in partnership with many others on is creating that registry. As a matter of fact, I got a call shortly, a couple days after the quake, how many digital cameras could I round up and get down there somehow so that they could begin to photograph all the kids that were showing up that might have parents somewhere, but nobody knows where they are.
Wow.
And we were able to reunite already 2,770 kids with their family. Mm. It's an important number because there were all the controversies about adoption in the wake of the earthquake, and we tried very hard to make the world understand that many of the kids who were getting institutional support, what we would say is an orphan because they're in an institution, truly weren't orphans. They were just economic orphans. The parents could no longer feed them.
I see.
And that doesn't mean mom is ready to send them off to another country. So the idea that kids who had been separated were all in search of a new family was an inaccurate perception. As I said, 2,700 of them have been reunited with their families. And we also then had 336 residential care centers evaluated, and with kind of standardized tools, and a directory of centers was launched, and we have been able to put in place an organizational structure to the whole institution system for the country of Haiti, which is phenomenal. If there's a silver lining to hell, that's it.
Yes. So that from this point on, there will be a registry of sorts, so that
exactly.
we'll be able, or organizations will be able to go in and make a determination about how many children they should be looking for.
Right, or that child who has nowhere to go will be noted and will know they exist. Mm. And so that's one side of it. The other side of it, as I said, was school. There's been extensive progress, and people have a perception, I think, of the black hole in Haiti, and they don't really realize how much progress has been made in 2 years.
And that's why these conversations that I'm having are important, because there has been progress made, and there are a lot of misperceptions.
Absolutely. More than 80,000 children are now learning in 193 semi-permanent schools constructed by UNICEF since the earthquake.
Okay. Right.
And about 750,000 children and about 15,000 teachers received learning and teaching materials in October of 2011 as part of our Back to School campaign. Mm-hmm. And that's really, again, in a country where less than 50% of the kids were going to school before the earthquake, those are phenomenal numbers. I visited a year later, last year on the anniversary. I did go back to Haiti, and I'm actually going back again at the end of January this year. Mm-hmm. And I visited one of these semi-permanent schools, and I went expecting it. I don't really know what I expected, I'll be honest. I knew that a lot of people were still in tents, and I wasn't quite sure. And I walked into this kind of, it has about I'm trying to describe it to you. It has half a wall built.
Okay.
And then kind of some poles that hold up a corrugated tin roof. So, it's warm. You don't need a full wall. But it does keep, in case it rains or anything, the kids are underneath something. And I walked in, and here was this classroom, and they didn't know I was coming, so they couldn't be prepared for me. Mm-hmm. And I walked in, and they were wearing crisp, clean, white shirts with their uniforms. And I thought, well, this must be a group of kids who live at home now, right? Mm-hmm. And I asked, how many of you still live in the camp? And more than half of them raised their hands. And I asked, how long do you walk to school? And almost all of them walk over an hour to get to school. And so I couldn't help myself. I said, so how are you getting your shirt clean? I have 3 kids. I can't get them to put a clean shirt on in the morning, Right. So, and these girls were amazing. They explained to me that they get back to the camp, and the first thing they do, because they only have one shirt each for school, they take that shirt off right away, and it goes right in a bucket, and it gets rinsed. And as soon as it's done being rinsed, they together pull their shirts until they get all the wrinkles out of them.
Wow.
And then they hang them to dry for a little while, and when they're almost dry, they wrap them around their notebook, and they put them under their mattress, and they sleep on them to press them. And there was something about all of that, come on, remember being a teenage girl, and you had to look good, and you had to be ready to play. And this is normalcy for these girls. This is, I'm still a teenage girl.
It's amazing. But it's also dedication and determination too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That at that young age, that they know that what's important is to keep moving forward, and to help themselves remain positive, they present positively.
Exactly.
So that when they go to school, they're prepared to learn and to work at learning.
And it's a message that's powerful for our own children here in the States.
Yes.
I came home and I talked to my own children, and this year, part of what UNICEF is doing to honor the anniversary is we're using social media to facilitate a conversation with Haitian youth. So you can, log on to the site, which is UNICEFHaiti365.org.
Okay.
And there's a unique forum for sharing and hearing the voices of Haitian youth, so that it's not Caryl telling you the stories, it's someone who's there right now telling you their story. And it's bilingual, it's interactive, it's actually an interesting thing that I would encourage, moms, dads, caregivers, grannies, to go on the site with the kids. I will take my teenagers on the site, 8 and 9-year-olds on the site, for them to hear those voices, for them to be able to pose their questions. One of the greatest gifts I think we give our own children is to make them global citizens. When I think about what will be left behind after I'm long gone and the problems that will still need to be solved, it's going to require these global citizenship skills that I do see it as our job to make sure our children develop.
Absolutely. This is our community now is worldwide, which is the other reason that I wanted to pay attention, close attention to Haiti on this 2-year anniversary, because I think that we owe it to each other as citizens of the world to lend a hand. And regardless of how much or how little we have, there's always something that we as individuals can do to help. When I think of the children in Haiti, you just described the fact that they had to get up and walk an hour to school, and then, of course, they have that hour back home from school, and then they wash their shirts and what have you. But in addition to that, they are still in survival mode with their families. So it's not like they just go home and do their homework. They might have to do additional work to help support their family. And these are things that children here in the U.S. don't really have to confront every day. I mean, their lives are relatively easy. Even when life here is hard, it's easier than the lives of millions of children around the world.
Absolutely. One of the statistics I usually share is that each and every day as we go about our business, 21,000 children, every single day, 21,000 children die of causes we already know how to prevent, but don't. So these are not, the disease you don't have a cure for, or the Haiti-like earthquake that you can't predict or stop, but literally preventable things like lack of a glass of water.
Yes.
And my children have this great seat at the table, and these kids have no chair at all.
Right, exactly.
And it's not okay. And and that's why it's frustrating when I hear, oh, Haiti, there's no progress. There is progress. A year after the earthquake, 300,000 Haitians had benefited from cash for work activities. In less than 2 years, 5 million cubic meters of rubble have been removed in Haiti. 5 million cubic meters. It took more than 5 years to remove a little over 1 million cubic meters of rubble in Aceh after the Asian tsunami.
Yes.
Over 5 years, we've done 5 million in 2 years.
Wow. And that's actually the result of many of the people of Haiti. The citizens doing it themselves. I mean, with whatever they had available to them, and again, it's their resilience and their determination that I find so very compelling and touching. Can we talk in the few moments that we have left about some of the other misperceptions? About the billions of dollars, for instance, that were given. If you'd address a few of those, I would.
Sure.
Really
I can only speak to the UNICEF dollars because I have no control or record of others.
Yes, exactly.
I can tell you that 93 cents of every dollar you give to the U.S. fund actually goes to the cause. And in the case of Haiti, in the initial collection that we did of $70 million, 100% went to the cause. We kept no recovery costs on it at all. And there is still a funding gap, candidly, appealing for $24 million more for immediate humanitarian needs right now, and another $30 million for long-term development. Which is, I've shared some of the school success with you, but in addition to that, 500,000 mothers and babies were provided with nutrition counseling, with breastfeeding coaching. We created 198 baby-friendly centers, which I actually have to say I visited, and they were so much fun. You go into a tent in a camp that's filled with babies. 500,000 women have received folic acid tablets, the iron folic acid.
Right, for nutrition.
Right,
prenatal.
which, we all of us in this country, when you get pregnant, that's the first thing you get. And this is, a true gift in a place like Haiti right now. And we are seeing, even in the camps themselves, in 2010, there were 1.5 million people sheltered in the camps, many of whom had access to a latrine for the first time in their lives. And that number now is just a little over 500,000. So over 1 million people have gotten out of the camps and into alternative living already. So that's, for a country that's so isolated, that's phenomenal.
Yes. People, I think, know and understand that there were challenges prior, and the earthquake really compounded the challenges that already existed. And so this is really rebuilding an entire nation all over again.
Absolutely.
And so I think if people would wrap their head around that, that they would be able to see that, progress takes time. So in all of that, what can people do to help?
Well, as I said, you can go onto our website, UNICEFhaiti365.org, and learn. You can go on to the UNICEFusa.org website. We still have a huge funding gap, and our commitment to the children of Haiti is full force. I was actually emailing back and forth with the team on the ground as recently as last night because it was the anniversary, and I wanted them to know that we had them on our minds last night. And they even told us how amazing that was, that how much there's still that need to know the world is still connected. And where we stand is as long as a single child lives in a tent or goes to bed without enough food or gets sick from a preventable disease or is denied the chance to go to school, as long as any child in Haiti suffers something they don't have to, suffers needlessly, we still have work to do. And we are hoping that the generosity of the American spirit that poured out their hearts in the immediate days after the earthquake will stay with us long enough to build the country into what she can be.
Yes, don't forget. The efforts are ongoing, and we can all help in those efforts.
UNICEFusa.org.
UNICEFusa.org. I've been speaking with Caryl Stern, the President and CEO of the U.S. Fund for UNICEF, and we've been talking about not just the challenges, but the progress that has been made in Haiti through UNICEF. And they are one organization that's been there since before. They know the country, and they're continuing their efforts. Caryl, thank you so very, very much again for joining me on the show and participating in this conversation.
Thank you, Audrey.
My pleasure. All the best to you.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.